Thanks everybody for joining us. And thanks for those who are listening in at another time. Really appreciate the fact that everybody is having a look at the webinar via YouTube after we've finished. We've got a couple of guests today. We've got Matt Gordge from RSM, who's our sponsor partner and has been for a couple of years. So thanks for coming on, Matt. Matt will be talking about the exciting subject of taxation and the issues that will be confronting us in 1819. And then we've also got Faye McLean, who's sitting there quietly in the background, and I'll talk a little bit further about Faye before she talks to us about LinkedIn. She's from Laser Connections. So Matt, I might hand over to you, mate. And we practiced sharing screens and all that sort of stuff. So over to you.
Okay, thanks, John.
Let's see how the technology goes.
Yeah, I think we're right.
Yes.
Everyone can see that okay? Okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity to present. To have a bit of a look at a couple of areas that I deal with a lot with my clients in small and medium businesses at this time of the year. And as you know, one of those is tax time. So typically, you know, we get asked a lot of questions about claims and income and, you know, ways of managing tax. But I think really importantly at this time of the year, it's a great opportunity for businesses and consultants like yourselves to look forward and just do a bit of a checklist, you know, how their year's looking and what does that mean in terms of housekeeping for tax, accounting and governance and good business practice. So I've broken it down into 10 sort of bite-sized topics, 5 of which are tax time related and 5 of which are areas that I think all businesses look at just to see that they're doing it right and whether there's opportunities to do things better. As always, this is pretty general advice, so please talk through it with an advisor before you act on anything that I talk about tonight. We'll start with a really simple one, but it's applicable to all consultants, and that's how you're structuring your motor vehicle claim for the 2018 year. There's a really simple method of claiming, which is 5,000 kilometres at the ATO rate, 66 cents a kilometre. That means you don't have to substantiate with a logbook or actual receipts of your expenses. A logbook method will get you a greater deduction generally, but you do need to keep that logbook for 12 weeks, establish a fairly high percentage, and you need to keep all of your running costs, so fuel, repairs, registration. The logbook's particularly good if you've got a new car or an expensive car because you can claim depreciation and interest on any borrowings. One advantage that consultants generally have is that their place of work, their main place of work is their home. So travel from home to any work-related site is considered a business trip. Whereas for myself, travel from home to our office here is not a business trip. So that's one benefit that you've got. And it's a bit of a segue into how you claim for operating from home. There's 2 options. One is it's a bit like motor vehicle. There's one which is quite simple, which is a home office arrangement. And with that, it's just an hourly claim at the ATO rate, 45 cents an hour. And then in addition to that, you claim all of your IT, phone, stationery, office equipment expenses. The alternative to that is where your house is a dedicated place of business. So you have a dedicated office that is exactly that. And using that, the ATO allow you to work out percentage of floor space that area covers, and you can claim that percentage on all of your property costs. Things like rates, interest if you've got a home loan, or rent if you're renting. One item to be aware of if you go down this path is that you can incur capital gains tax when you come to sell. So just bear that in mind.
Matt, can I just ask a quick question about internet?
Yep.
So one thing I've struggled with, because we have home internet, how do I prove how much I'm on the internet? Is that basically like keeping a log for as many hours that I'm connected to it, or is there an easier way to do it?
Yeah, look, that one's generally not something the ATO would question too hard. I mean, if you can say, look, I think with the consultant, it's pretty clear that, the best part, if not 100% of your internet is going to be work related. If you really wanted to cover it, you would do a log for a week, just covering off that time. But to me, internet's just a critical tool of the trade, and private use probably incidental, and the reality is you need it, and most internet arrangements are fixed contracts. So I don't think that's a hot area, David. It's a good question, but with that and phone use, it is better if you do a log it for a week or something like that. But I think the ATO is going to accept 100% of your internet use.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay. Next one is super contributions. This is a really well publicised area. The government, in their wisdoms, sort of tweaked it quite a lot, and it's probably confused the issues. But the limit for tax deductible contributions now is only $25,000 a year. It did used to be $100,000, sort of probably about 10 years ago, but it's been scaled back. But you can make non-deductible contributions of up to $100,000 each year. And there are circumstances whereby if you don't use your full contribution limits in a year, you can carry them forward. So that's something worthwhile, particularly for consultants. If the income's a bit lumpy, it might be that you don't put the 25 in one year, but you might put in 50 in the year following. So always seek advice on that, because it is a bit of a perilous area if you get it wrong. The other one is understand the benefit of claiming a tax deduction for your super contribution. It might be that you've put money in during the year, but your income's actually come in fairly low with deductions you've claimed or timing of income, and you might be better to call your super fund and actually get them to reclass it as a non-deductible contribution, whereby the fund doesn't pay tax on the contribution. So just keep that in mind. This is an important one for consultants. So generally pretty good social people and like getting out there and meeting up with people and doing some business development. There's some kind of crazy rules about entertainment, but generally it's not deductible, and that includes things like going out for coffees. It's sort of crazy when because it's just a flat rule. So just be aware of that. There is a distinction between going out for coffee and having sustenance on a work site. So having fees in-house, that's deductible, but if you're down at the cafe, they're not. If you are operating through a company or a trust, entertainment can have fringe benefits tax implications. So that's one to clarify with your accountant as well.
So Matt, just to clarify that as an example of what I do. So if I go and have lunch with you or have a coffee outside of Intersect, that is non-deductible, but any sessions that I might run at Intersect, my office, whether the associates get together or whether that's a function that I put on for associates, there is a degree of tax deductibility in relation to those.
Exactly right, John.
So
you're a good student.
The two examples of, I'm a good student. Thanks, mate.
Good listener.
It's like coffees are always at your place then.
I know. We have coffee.
To hit John up to host you for a coffee. Yeah. This is another one that you would have heard in the lead up to 30 June. I think Harvey Norman and Officeworks and the like just ran this one all over the media. You can get an immediate tax deduction for equipment under 20,000. Previously, you had to write it off over a number of years using depreciation. It's a bit of a year-by-year proposition. In the budget in May, the government did extend this for 2019. So again, it's a good way to help manage a tax position if you do have a lumpy income year and you've got extra income that you're trying to manage from a tax point of view. My advice is never go out and buy equipment that you don't need, but if you do need to replace or buy equipment, the timing of it can help you a lot. So they're the 5 tax areas that I think are pretty topical for consultants. There are other areas, but if you've got any questions regarding those, let me know, or any other matters relating to tax. Happy to answer them today, or take it offline and shoot me an email.
Just a quick question, Matt, in relation to tax deductibility for your vehicle. Can I just ask, does your car insurance have to represent that it's a business use car, or?
No, so that's dictated by, firstly, the method that you use. And if you're going down a logbook, you do have to have that logbook to establish the percentage that you can claim.
No.
But, if you're operating as a sole trader, there's no distinction between, John Munro's car, whether it's cars, it's one and the same.
Okay, thank you.
John, my experience, John, with business use on insurance is generally if you have goods carrying, then it needs to be covered for business. But because as consultants we don't really carry goods, as in product, then it certainly personal's quite okay. So
thank you. No, thanks, mate. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so let's take a bit of a look forward at your business and just some issues that are worth bearing in mind if your circumstances are changing. Hopefully you're all got projects on the go for the year and got some exciting things happening. And some of these areas may need to be reviewed if that's the case. Your legal structure by which you operate your business. Typically, I see consultants start as a sole trader because it's cheap and it's a great way to stick your toe in the water. But reality is, if you've made a move that is going to be at least medium term, then it's looking like quite a good commercial venture, then it's really time to have a think about a structure that gives you some protection and also allows you some tax planning opportunities. Typically, those structures are a company or a trust, a discretionary trust. The other area is you just need to understand if you are operating with another person as a business partner, how that will work. So it's a complex area, and I couldn't do it justice with a quick discussion tonight. But a clear piece of advice is if you are a sole trader and the future's looking rosy, you probably want to start thinking about review. If you do go down the road of a new structure, a new ABN, bank account, speak to your insurer, and employer registrations as well. Just to recap on tax registrations and employment. So GST, you must register when your annual turnover, gross turnover, is 75,000 above that level. I think probably most of you are registered anyway.
Can I just ask a question in relation to that?
Sure.
I've actually moved over to Bali, so I don't actually need a huge income. So I'm trying to work in semi-retirement mode.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking at a situation where I don't want to earn that sort of money every year. I don't need to. I don't want to. I'm currently GST registered. Can I deregister for GST if I'm going to be consistently earning money below that amount?
Yeah, certainly. Yep. If you're
And
below
what are the
5,
yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you can lodge a cancellation with the ATO, and you can just continue to operate just with your ABN, and you just provide an invoice with the ABN.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Yep.
Matt, while you're having a break, can I just ask in relation to virtual assistants? A number of the associates use virtual assistants overseas. You're about to start talking about paying wages, et cetera, et cetera. Can I just ask you to maybe encompass that as well?
Yeah, sure. That's pretty straightforward. So they're not employees. They are consultants, and there's no requirement to treat them as Australian employees. So you need to do nothing more than just pay them as you would any other contractor or supplier.
Okay, so even if you're directing them very specifically and stuff like that, and I suppose if there's a doubt, speak to yourself directly or a lawyer.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. If in doubt, I think as soon as you're going overseas like that, just the normal Australian employment rules that would apply don't apply. So
thank you.
But if you are paying wages, just be really careful. Obviously, you need to withhold tax, pay superannuation, and register for work cover or return to work, it's called now. And just have a look at how it all interacts with your professional indemnity insurance, just to make sure that you've got adequate cover. The fact that you've got employees that probably increase the risk of negligence or some of the other things that can happen. So accounting software, the way you keep your records, there's been a lot of progress in this area in the last few years with cloud and digital platforms. Again, typically people when they start like to keep it simple. They may be using Excel, which is fine, but once you get into regular invoicing, keeping track of your profit and your own performance, moving to a cloud-based package will help you significantly. And look, they're super quick and they're simple. A lot of the data is automatically downloaded, so it takes out a lot of the operator error issues that typically we would have seen. Things like bank reconciliations are very straightforward as a result. So that's something to speak to myself or your accountant about as to what's going to suit your business best. This one's really important for all professions. To review your terms of engagement that you're issuing to your clients. really important that clearly articulates milestones, at which point you can raise invoices. We all want to get paid, so you don't want to have arguments about that. And be clear about what services and what's in scope in terms of what you're providing, what you don't accept liability for, and what's outside of scope as well. You don't want to commit to something at a budget cost, and then when they come for asking for a Rolls-Royce job that you've offered to deliver on a Commodore budget, that you're stuck getting paid for a Commodore when you're delivering a Rolls-Royce. So this is all pretty simple stuff, but it's easy to overlook. The other one is, if you are dealing with other consultants or business partners, how does that work? Who's responsible? What are the risks? Just work through that, just so you don't get caught if things go wrong. Obviously, this is an area, you know, if you've got doubts or it's complicated, then engage a lawyer to help you.
Yeah, that was just to interrupt there, Matt, too. It's such a crucial area. Anthony and I have been working through that process over the last 3 or 4 months. It's been an issue that's been raised really well by Leanne a couple of months ago in relation to how you go about your governance and protecting yourself from that perspective. For those of you who haven't got a service agreement, don't forget that I actually have one that was done by Normans, which you can have a look at. I'm more than happy to send that through to anybody who wants to just check that out and use that as a basis for their own as well. So, sorry, Matt, thank you.
No, that's great. If you've got one that can be a reference, that's
that might save you some money.
Yeah, well, spot on. Yeah. And yeah, this is the last point. You would have seen the saga that is the Royal Commission currently into financial services and the way they operate and provide finance. Just be really careful about your assumptions and expectations about your ability to raise money if you need to support your cash flow throughout the year with the way that your business income is playing out. Generally, loan redraws are there and you can redraw on them, but if approval is required, just understand what it is that the bank's going to be looking for. Banks are really hot on 2 things: one, security, and one, serviceability. And if you don't have one of those 2, they're probably going to knock you back at the moment. So don't rely on things like low doc loans, which have been available over the past. That they're still out there. You can use them, but they're not as easy to access. And and frankly, you probably don't want to be relying on them. So just sort of work those forecasts and your budgets. Thankfully, consulting is a business with low overheads. So perhaps this isn't quite as critical, but as I've referred to, cash flow can be lumpy. So you don't want to run out of money. So just have a think through that. That's what I've prepared. As I said, I'm happy to take questions now, or please shoot me an email if we want to take it offline.
Thanks very much, Matt. I'll also send your details out again to all of the associates, because there's been some new associates join in June. And obviously you're more than amenable to talking to anybody about what they're doing. Even if you've got another accountant, to bounce around with somebody else, and Matt is always willing to talk to you. So thank you very much, Matt. Really appreciate your time. That was really appropriate and really valuable for this time of year. So Thank you for handing my screen back, and please continue to listen for as long as you can. And when you need to go, mate, just click off.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Actually, Matt, I have a question for you. John raised the question around VAs. Is there, I'm sure other consultants experience this, I have an enormous amount of expenditure that goes out that gets paid in US dollars, and, you know, lots of operating systems and things like that are based in the US. So there's no GST claim on those. Is there any workaround to be able to get some kind of compensation for that expenditure, given the fact that, you know, then if I receive income, I'm obviously then paying a chunk of GST and kind of constantly get peeved that I'm getting double duped at both ends?
No, the short answer is there's no workaround. So I guess you have to factor that into the way you price your product, because you have no ability to claim back the GST. What would be a GST component? It is an income tax deduction, so that applies. But look, GST on imports, on services, there isn't any. If you import an actual good, then you have to pay GST at the dock when it hits Australia, but not.
Yeah. Bummer.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Faye. Not even possible.
I'll have a nice big back claim, as with everybody, I'm sure, once we figure out a hack to that one.
No worries. Thanks very much, Matt. Really appreciate it. And just liking to introduce everyone who may have come in a bit later to Faye McLean. Thanks for joining us, Faye. Really appreciate it. Faye's from Laser Connections. She is a LinkedIn consultant, and that's the reason that I've asked her to come on board tonight. And we ironically met via LinkedIn, which is a fantastically important part of my business, as everybody knows. I did the calculations for this year, 2018, and it's an average of 2.6 appointments I have a week from people other than associates and other than partners that are driven from LinkedIn. And that's just from the way that I go about it. So it continues to be a really important process. Not only is Faye an expert on LinkedIn, but she's been a business coach since 2008, so brings a lot of experience. So welcome, Faye, and thank you very much for spending the time with us this evening.
Thanks so much, John, and it's great to be with you. And firstly, thank you, John, for inviting me to come along and speak with your associates here today. And also a big thank you to everybody who is either here now or listening to the replay. Everybody has something else that they could be doing, so I'm totally aware that people's time is extremely valuable, and appreciate you giving it up to us today. The purpose of me coming and chatting with you today is really just to try to enlighten you as to some of the opportunities that there are within the LinkedIn platform and how you can turn around and grow your business from that. There are many, many facets to LinkedIn, and obviously we can only cover a small amount of things here today. But again, like Matt, please feel free to reach out to me at some point for further clarification. As John alluded to, I've been involved with business coaching and marketing since 2008, 2009. And in my earlier days, it was the whole time through my marketing career, it has been based around client attraction and business growth for whatever type of client I was working with at the time. Days gone by, I was always working with very startup newbie solopreneurs, and over time have sort of moved through to working with more experienced consultants and coaches and business owners. And at the time, you know, I used to do everything marketing related, the blog posts, the Twitter, the, you know, everything else, and even came across LinkedIn at the time and just thought it was some stuffy, awkward corporate platform that I didn't particularly take an interest in, and it wasn't until I revisited that platform about several years ago that I realized the enormous power that it had as far as business growth goes, and to the point where for the last 2 years since I've been growing my LinkedIn business or specialty area, I haven't used a single other source of marketing except LinkedIn. So if anybody tries to, you know, look for a blog post or, you know, a Twitter feed or an active Facebook community or page or anything like that, there just isn't any, because everything I do on LinkedIn drives the business for my business. And hopefully we can share a snippet of how that happens with you today. So I'm just also going to try and share my screen here, John. So let's see if this works.
Done.
Just let me know. Yeah? Okay.
Perfect.
Alrighty, I won't fiddle with it too much because I'm...
expand it, Faye, so down the bottom and expand it. Down the very bottom.
Yep.
That's it.
Did that do that?
No, that actually just came up and showed you that you're on a slide show.
Okay.
So if you just reverse it, go down to the bottom and expand. Yep, perfect.
Yep. Alrighty, now.
Okay, that'll do. That's fine.
All right. Okay. First of all, as far as LinkedIn goes, in my opinion, there are 2 opportunities for us on LinkedIn. There is what which I do a lot of, and then there is also the inbound inquiries, which is where you get a message coming into your platform. And so both of them have a very specific role to play in the growth of your business and how you reach out. If you are, you know, talking about specific lead generation campaigns, it's related to a direct response outreach. And what I mean by that is where you actively seek out and purposefully send a campaign generally, which means a sequence of messaging to your audience. It's very strategic, very specific, and there are, you know, steps in place to that sequence. And the messages that, you know, we found that we've perfected are a great mix of being a mixture of the authentic voice of our clients or of the person who is doing the outreach, together with the psychological factors that are required within a message that get people to respond. You know, as human beings, there are many factors that trigger us to respond. And through years of education and copyright education and things like that, we've adapted a sequence of messages that include those psychological triggers, so that when we show people how to send these messages out, they are far more likely to get a response than what the person is currently sending. So that's the direct response outreach. It's very purposeful, it's very direct, and yet it's also done in such a way that, you know, it avoids anybody sort of thinking that you're just jumping down their throat or spamming them or, you know, trying to sell to them. In fact, I often have people coming back, you know, with messages saying, you know, hey, I loved your outreach. I spoke with a client yesterday who actually sent a message to someone we were doing some work for saying, hey, I love the way this marketing is being done. Who is doing it for you? So it's really well received, which is something that people are often very hesitant with when they're sending out specific sales message sequences. So that's the direct response outreach. And then the other side of LinkedIn is what I call the inbound inquiries. And that's where we're trying to create interest. This is the side of the road, or the path you like, that a lot of people you might see talk about: creating authority, creating influence, growing yourself to be shown as a leader. And most of the ways that that is done is through your own content creation and engagement with others. So, you know, there are two clearly defined paths when you're operating within the LinkedIn platform, and depending on the purpose for what you want to be doing at the time will
Faye's obviously frozen a little bit there, so when it catches up, I'll get Faye to. Faye, you froze there for about a minute, so
okay.
So you might just the last 30, 40 seconds, I think it was.
Okay, so I think of these things as a 2-lane highway, and when these 2 lanes merge together, then you get this enormous boost and rush of traffic, and that's what happens with LinkedIn when you combine the inbound inquiry strategies together with the direct response outreach. So I guess the question most people then have is, you know, well, how do we go about doing this? What I want to talk more about today is the inbound inquiries, as opposed to the direct response outreach. Now, the other thing that I know a lot of people probably see is constantly told to you, you've got to optimize your profile, you've got to optimize your profile. And this is it could also be spoken on its own. So given that today, I just want to keep it fairly brief. But there are, also want to see if I can get out of here and onto, I just want to jump into my LinkedIn, if I can.
Yep, that's showing.
Beautiful. So some of the areas that, you know, people often speak about, just move a few things, is obviously your headline is one thing. It's this section here, and this needs to be created in a formula that talks about who you work with, what you do, and how you do that. Their profile as a resume, and that's one of the great big mistakes that is very prevalent on LinkedIn. So please revisit your headline, and you want it so that when somebody views your profile or lands on your profile, they can clearly identify, without a whole heap of, you know, year 12 ATAR score type language, to have to try and decipher or understand what it is that you do. So your headline is super important. And then this summary section is the next bit that people see. And again, it wants to speak to the solution that you solve for your clients. So very clearly and succinctly tell them what it is that you're able to do. And then you can move on to the remainder of your summary. And again, I'm whizzing over this super quickly. But make it easy for them to read, have clear outcomes as to what your clients can expect. And then the most important thing is that you actually include some kind of call to action within your summary. And your profile, most of all, needs to be a sales funnel within your business. I'm sure that term's familiar to all of you. And what that means is people are going to come in at the top, and you want to feed them onto the next step that they take in order to do business with you. So it may be to visit your website. It may be to download a freebie. It may be to book a call with you. But this profile needs to become the entry to your sales funnel for whatever else you are trying to do, or wherever else within your business you're trying to drive traffic. So a call to action, super important. And then and enhance as a group together of associates. First of all, touching very quickly your experience. Now, interestingly enough, this is the place that you want to make sure you've got keywords for what you want to be found for your service. A lot of people think that the keywords need to be popped up into the headline here, but that's not the priority that LinkedIn uses when they're creating the search results of somebody filtering for a business coach, for whatever service it is that you do. So if you have a couple of, if you're, for example, a consultant and a speaker, then I would suggest you create 2 experiences and leave them open-ended as present. And that way, if you happen to be doing a specific outreach campaign, or you're purposefully trying to promote a particular area of your business, you have the ability with the little toggles here to switch which one of these shows up first within your present experience positions. So that can help if you're doing something specific. Now, the part that you guys can help each other with is making super sure that you've all come along and endorsed each other for the skills that you want to be endorsed for. And this again is an area of social proof that is very strong when people are making a buying decision as to who they're going to do business with. And also to request from each other to give each other recommendations. And again, this is the social proof that you can then turn around and use within other marketing or draw people to your LinkedIn profile to help you with. And then one patch that a lot of people don't realize is that on your summary or your whole profile, LinkedIn does not permit you to have any live active links except within one place. And that's within this lower section of the profile summary. And a lot of people quite ignore, there's projects and there's a few other options that come in here, but you can actually put in here, as opposed to an old project that you did 5 years ago, this is a great place to be able to put a live hyperlinked link where people can click directly off LinkedIn to where you want to take them. So make good use of this. If it's a book sale, if it's a strategy call, if it's, it might be a website, something you've got going on, utilize this live hyperlink because it's the only place that you can do that on.
So Faye, can I just ask a quick question? So I did a LinkedIn post yesterday, and in there, I put in there to contact me, and I had my email address. So that was in my post. So is that the same as a hyperlink that you're talking about, or is that different again?
It's different again, and I will touch on that, but basically John and I spoke about do's and don'ts. One of the biggest don'ts you can do is actually
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think we must have spoken about that at our meeting the other day, and I did this post and I didn't have my email address in there, and I had a message from someone saying, hey, love your post, really great, but you haven't told me how I get in touch with you. Yeah. So then I went, I better put my email address in there. Then I went, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem right, because I'm sure the conversation we had at lunch on Friday was not to do that. So that's
right. There's a couple of hacks around that, David. So you can either choose and say to people, please send me a message here on LinkedIn, or if you need to, and it's not just an email link, it's actually a link for registration, a link to look at your website, a link to anything, guys. If it takes people off LinkedIn, LinkedIn will shut that post reach down like putting water on a fire. Yeah. And so what you want to do is you say, I've popped my email into the first comment below.
Aha, okay.
Okay, so any link you want to include and say to people in the bottom of your post, see the link to register in the first comment below.
There you go.
Okay. And then this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it segues in well and it's appropriate, because also what happens to any post is that LinkedIn will make a determination within the first 48 hours what it's going to do from an algorithmic perspective with that post. And so if it's got a link in it, they'll block it. Not block it, but, you know, just not put it out for reach, as much as if it doesn't. So what you can do on a great post is let it run for 48 to 36 hours, let it gather its momentum, and then if you want to, go back and edit it and insert the link back into the post then.
Okay. Nice.
And that way you have allowed LinkedIn to see it as a clear post. Clear post means it's got nothing wrong with it. That means they're not going to restrict it in any way. You've let them give it every opportunity to be seen to as many people as possible. Hopefully people are engaging with it. It'll gather a little bit of you know, moss as it starts rolling down the hill. Then once it's gathered its own momentum, go back, edit it, insert your link.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to leave profiles there, guys, but understanding that that's just a super quick overview. The next important thing that you want to do is obviously make sure that you are bringing the right people into your audience. And you can certainly do that by using just the low basic level of LinkedIn search, by searching for here the type of people you want to be connecting to. And then it'll allow you to have filters that you can pull up for some industries, your level of connections, the location, etc. If you're really serious about growing your business and you want to use LinkedIn to monitor and compile your really ideal targeted audience, I would highly suggest that you grab Sales Navigator. They do run a 30-day trial for free if you've not used it before, but other than that, it will sit at around $100 US. Sorry, $80 US, so about $100 Australian per month. Matt, unfortunately, oh, actually, LinkedIn does have GST, and it is paid in Australia, so you do get to claim GST on that, which is super. And then what you can do, just like show me a raised hand if anybody has done searches on. No? Okay, so this is new. So you go here to the advanced section and search for leads. And then what you get to do is, again, you get to specify the people you want to work with. So you can choose your any keywords. Now these keywords are keywords that are found first of all as a priority search in that experience section in someone's profile, if you recall. You can then go through and perhaps Matt, you might say, Matt might just want to be working with accountants, so he would select the industry here as accounting, and then he would turn around and select the person within the accountants he might want to work with, chief executive officers, or they're probably not called that in accountants, in fact, not generally. So he might want to talk to, you know, senior financial auditor, for example. You've got a whole load of much deeper level filters that you can reach really specifically to the people that you want to connect with here. Once you've made your filtering process, you can then pull up the search of all these people, and this is where you then get to look through and let's see if I can move that out of the way, and you get to come down here and you might say, wow, yes, that's exactly the kind of person I want to connect with. I'm going to save them as a lead. Now it will automatically be saved in Sales Navigator here under Saved Leads. and you would then go through and save every person that was in this search that you really wanted to develop a relationship with as far as now. So let's say you go through and do all of that, and then what you can come back and do is go to your saved leads and Sales Navigator will give you a whole list of all the results that you've just saved. Now, if you think back to that 2-lane highway, and we talked about engagement or the those inbound inquiries happen very much based on the level of engagement that you have with your ideal audience. But if you've spent much time on LinkedIn, you'll understand that based on its algorithm, you will only see people in your newsfeed that you tend to engage with. So if you're not engaging with your ideal clients, then you won't see their content, and ultimately, nor will they see your content. So rather than kind of trying to scratch your head each day and go, oh my God, you know, who am I meant to search for and find and, you know, look up for their content, we can go through this process here and save your leads. And then LinkedIn allows you to come back to this home page. And from the home page, it will actually show you all the updates that the people you have saved as leads are putting out. And rather than try to filter through your news feed on LinkedIn and get distracted or not be able to find the people you really want to engage with, you can actually come down here and simply like or comment on the content of the people that you have specifically selected as targeting, if you like, as being specific people you want to nurture relationships with. Because obviously the more times people see you commenting and liking on their in their posts, the more opportunity there is for you to build a deeper relationship with them. So this is a great time-saving tool that is only available through the Sales Navigator level of subscription, which allows you to be able to engage very easily with people that you have chosen as leads within this area. If you choose not to do this, then by all means you can come back and engage with people in your general, you know, in your feed. And commenting and liking and engagement on the posts is going to automatically reflect who will also see your content. So it becomes very much a two-way street. So there also lies the reason why it's super important to keep people in your connections who are your ideal clients or your target audience, so that there's more likely that they are the people that you're engaging with and the people who are seeing your content.
Clay, can I ask a quick question, please?
Yes.
Does Laser Connections have its own LinkedIn page, or do you just use your name as your business?
I use my name as my business, however, and this comes back to, I guess, the comment I made at the start, where I've really just built my business based on the direct response outreach and growth with some organic inbound inquiries. But I've not yet created a company page. It's next on my list, on my to-do list almost, because there is definitely the ability to do that. And one of the reasons I say that, and I'll just jump over and show you an example of exactly why you should do that. And it's when we're talking about we'll move on now a little bit to actually creating the type of content that LinkedIn wants to see, because that's one of the final things that we'll chat about here. When you're putting up content, and I'll answer your question in this demo, David. When you're putting up your content, the first thing you want to make sure is that you are putting up content that is mobile optimized. And it's a massive mistake, again, that people make on LinkedIn, is jamming stuff into single-lined paragraphs, where if people are scrolling, and the majority of people using LinkedIn are doing it from a mobile phone, when they are looking, it makes it really hard for them to consume your content. And so it's likely to be skipped and missed. So the hack around that is to try wherever possible to space your content into double line spacing. And this guy is a great example of this. And he has double line spacing here, really short sentences, which makes it really easy to understand. He's actually given this piece of content in very much of a storytelling type of process, and storytelling in your content is also highly recommended. But what he's done here, and this is a case in point, David, that leads us to answer your question, is that he's spoken about his business and the growth of his business, and then he's used his business name in here, which means if people click to that, they are still kept within the LinkedIn platform. So no disrespect from the algorithm as far as promoting this post, because he's not taking people off the LinkedIn platform. And then what he's done here is made sure that this page is again optimized for people to get all the info that they need. From here, he's happy for people to go off LinkedIn. So this is kind of like a business landing page, if you like, where people have got the basics of the company and they've got their website. And because people have come to this page in this post, the post has been allowed to gather as much momentum as possible. And now, you know, people can now go off and follow his company page. So therein lies the question, the answer to your question, in that, yes, we should all have a company page on the to-do list, most definitely, and it's something that I would definitely encourage yourselves to create.
So yes, I've got a company. Funnily enough, the main reason I did a company page is so I could have my business logo appear.
Exactly.
Thing, there's no company page, you can't have your logo.
Yep.
There.
That's exactly right.
But what you're saying is post as you, as opposed to posting through your business. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Post as you, and only just use your business page as a link within your post.
Right. Excellent.
You can say, you know, blah blah blah, and you know, here at David Watt's company, link to company page, and this is what we did last week, or whatever may be the case.
Nice. And by him typing Banff Media in, that automatically will find his company page.
Correct.
Going there. That's great.
Yeah, he's had to tag it, so you have to use the @ symbol in front of that.
Okay, yep.
And this is an instance where he's also come back and edited this post after it's gained traction, to pop the registration link in here for people.
That's cool.
Yep. So just in regards to content, to sort of tie the content piece up and finish up, there's a couple of different types of content, and I'm sure you've seen all of them. The first is the short form text, and that's where it's just enough that no one has to click the more button to see any more, and you see it all. So the short form text, there's the long form text, which this is an example of. There's the video, which is popular nowadays, and then there's a copy that also includes an image. Now, what happens when somebody posts a piece of content to LinkedIn? LinkedIn assesses it for 3 things. They assess it, and this is what happens within moments of it being posted. Spam. Now, by spam, they mean, is it about, you know, unfortunately, is it about multi-level marketing? Is it about MLM? Is it about network marketing? That sort of thing. If it's okay for that, then it gets shown up as clear. Is it low quality is their next question. Now, content that LinkedIn consider low quality are content with images. It is content with images, content with links in it, and also content that is shared content. So if it's any of those three things, they will restrict the reach by calling it low quality. Now, a lot of people are quite surprised by the fact that shared content is considered low quality. But the reason is that if you can imagine a LinkedIn influencer like Guy Kiyosaki, for example, has 2 million followers. If he posts a piece of content and 2 million people share that content, it doesn't necessarily mean that that content is high quality as far as LinkedIn goes. It just means that he has a ton load of people that are willing to share his stuff. But however, if a piece of content has gotten engagement through likes and comments, then they will consider it to be quality content. So if it passes spam and passes through as as low quality, then they consider it to be what they call clear. And what they do then is they show the content to a very small group of your first connections. And then depending on the impact to that piece of content will then determine whether or not they continue to show it to more of your first connections first, and then out to your second connections, who are people who you are not currently connected to, but your first connections are. So that's why you've got to leave those links out, David, for that initial period of time until the content passes through LinkedIn's algorithm. Your first connections jump on it and hopefully give it some legs, and then it starts to grow. So that's the process that the algorithm puts each piece of content through. Now, I would highly suggest that you, as a group that you have, develop a system. A lot of people call them engagement pods, but I'm not going to be as specific as that, but simply to know that as a group of business owners all looking out for each other's interests, I would definitely develop some kind of system whereby you alert the others to the fact that you've posted some new content, and then it becomes your group responsibility, if you like, to jump straight comment on it and assist each other to allow that early content to gather some momentum. And of course, tagging people inside the content is also permissible, and that's also another way to show that piece of content to the audience of the person that you tagged them. So, as an example today, I know at the end of today, I'll be making a post to say that we've spoken with John. John will be tagged. Your group thought leaders will be tagged if there's a way to tag that. Any of you will be tagged, which means that your connections are able to see that content. So I invite you to do the same in reverse and to also support each other in doing that. So that's also a way to allow your content to grow a bigger reach by having someone that you can legitimately and authentically tag within the content where it makes sense.
Can I just ask a question about LinkedIn's method for tagging? Is it @ and then the person's name? Is that the
yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you don't have to be a connection to pick them up as a tag.
Thanks for that, Anthony. That was my question.
Oh, great. Yeah, which is definitely a way to, it's a strategic way to get yourself in front of someone else's audience. if you just did, like, as a reverse example, if I felt that Leanne had a whole bunch of people connected to her that were my ideal clients and I wanted to get in front of them, then I'm going to tag Leanne, and that's the sort of strategies that you each should be looking at doing. Is if you have a connection to, or not even a connection, but if you can, in a natural and professional, really is the word, professional and authentic way, include somebody else into your content, then by all means do it. And that's one of the ways to continue to grow your own reach. And that's how you'll start to get people. When you start to do that, you'll start to find you get more inbound connection requests coming in, because people are seeing you in other people's, through other people. So I want to leave it there. There's so much that could be taught. I'm sure you're all aware, and I really hope I actually haven't overwhelmed you, but by the same token, I wanted to show you that there really are some capability for business growth LinkedIn, and I really just want to leave you with the fact that sure that your profile is set up in such a way that it every 4 or 5 days, then by being strategic and spending some good solid time using the LinkedIn platform to its fullest extent.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Faye. I still don't know where I'm going to start yet, but it was fantastic.
You're welcome.
Overwhelming but really exciting, I think, was the way I would have put it. So thank you very much, Faye. I'm sure we will be knocking on your door. I'll send you a list of all of the associates when we've finished. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. If you can just give us back my screen, that'll be fantastic.
I will do.
And we will talk shortly.
Now, what do I need to... I'll stop sharing. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Perfect. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Faye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stop showing me that barley drink, Leanne.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah. That's how she rolls.
It's been a long, hard day over here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And finally, today I've asked Anthony to give us a good look at some changes to a product which I've used, Powtoon. It's on my webpage, obviously on the ThoughtConnect webpage, and it's been looked at quite a few hundred times, so I'm pretty pleased with that. It really helped me get some confidence with putting online content. And so Anthony showed me the upgrade to Powtoon. So Anthony, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself and
guys, I have to actually go.
No,
I'm
that's
really
fine.
sorry.
Thanks for joining us.
So I can catch up with this.
Yeah, you'll be.
And I'll get on the webinar and catch up. And
Yep.
Anthony, I might need to contact you one-on-one.
And I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Leanne.
What time?
10 o'clock.
What time?
10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see you then. Yeah.
See ya.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks, John. I first subscribed to Powtoon about 3 years ago, and I used it extensively in my sort of affiliate marketing business. And the early versions of Powtoon were the ability to create animated videos. So the way that it works is that you actually record a script, whatever your sales message or educational message is. You then upload it to Powtoon, and then you use like a series of screens to match content to your message. So to begin with, I'll just show you the most recent video I did. It has come so far in that 3 years. I hadn't used it for, gee, good 18 months. And the extra tools that are now available are just stunning. So I'm just
everyone's seen mine? So that'll give you a bit on the web page. Everyone would, if you have a bit of a look at that, it goes for about 3 or 4 minutes. So that'll show you where we were, weren't we, Anthony, when we early this year?
Yep.
So, yeah.
So this is, let's get this other thing out of the way. So this is my ad.
If you're self-employed in your own consulting or coaching business, I've got a very quick question for you. Do you ever break out into a cold, clammy sweat when there's not much business coming in and you realise your cash flow is starting to dry up? Imagine how it would feel if it were possible for you to have a more predictable stream of income regularly flowing into your business. Well, one way you can do that is to set up an automated online income for yourself with one or perhaps several different income streams related to the products and services you offer your clients. So if you'd agree that having an online income that was fully automated would make a huge difference to your sense of security and well-being, what's the first step? Clearly, step one would be to investigate if developing this kind of income is a realistic possibility for you and your business. To help you do that, I'm hosting a free webinar where I'll take you through a series of questions to help you decide.
So that just gives you a little bit of a taster of what that's like. I'll get rid of that. Just bear with me, guys. Back to you. So I'll now share the actual Powtoon platform with you. Just again, I need to share screen.
Which is quite an amazing commercial for you to be able to make. And how long did that take you, Anthony?
I reckon all up about 4 hours. Basically, what I did was to use the text for promotional sales email for my upcoming webinar, and I had the realization that actually made a video. So I did a voiceover of that email, basically uploaded it to Powtoon, and then started to use this grid to paste images onto it. So the way it works is there are a whole range of different kinds of themes. I went for this so-called real look. Can you see where I'm indicating at the top of the page? That real look?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So basically what Powtoon does is to enable you to create a whole series of slides, and each slide can range literally from anywhere from a couple of seconds, and here's the timeline right down the bottom here. This first screen here is by default set at 10 seconds, but you can actually increase that out to a maximum of 20 seconds. So the way that it basically works is I was looking for some free video backgrounds, and just to give you an example, it's actually uploading that to the template. It's asking, do I want to add it to the slide? Now you can then preview the screen that you've just created just simply by pressing the go button, and voila. Now of course your voice is going to be, you've uploaded your dialogue to do that. So I would, in that instance, probably, I mean, the idea in an introduction is to capture attention. So my first screens are typically fairly short. We could then start to look for maybe some characters. It's not going to work for me, maybe, or some shapes. We can add some whooshes. Why don't we just add that in here somewhere? But you can create a whole series of animated effects. You can add some text, and there are different things that you can do with text. It's got sort of fancy text size, I suppose, is one thing that you can do. But you can actually animate the text as well. So you basically build a series of video screens around your story. And at the end of that, you basically publish it to video. And you've got the choice of uploading that to YouTube and creating a YouTube link. Or alternatively, you can download the video like I did as an MP4 to your computer. And you can paste it on your website, paste it on a Facebook page, do a LinkedIn post. I actually posted that video on LinkedIn. But it is such a handy tool. And like John, I suppose, when I first got started in this game, I was not all that keen to show my real face on... So I took the chicken's way out. I actually used Powtoon. So I did quite a lot of voiceovers and created a number of advertisements, basically with animated cartoons. But the professionalism of this new suite enables you to put together some pretty schmick presentations. So the main thing to concentrate on, really, I think then is your script and putting a lot of energy into your voice. And then just making sure that the images that you add to the template there match what you're saying. It is such a versatile, easy to use tool. It's actually quite intuitive to use. And cost, there's a free version, but that actually includes their logo, which is a bit of an... I think I'm on the $170 US a year subscription, which gives you the majority of the functionality that you need. So I'm kind of at a pro level, what they call. There's a Pro Plus, which is about $700 a year. I don't see the need for that. And the only drawback from Pro to Pro Plus is that the highest definition videos you can create are 720. But that's fantastic for websites, YouTube videos, and those sorts of things. But if you're interested in this, just sign up and have a muck around with the free version. I think you'll find it worth your while because it just adds another dimension to your ability to really the big deal these days in all sorts of media. And if you've got a website, you can complement any blogs and those sorts of things with video content. It's a great way to engage with audiences. Yeah, so that's my report on Powtoon. I'm just stunned and staggered at how far it's come along, John. Yeah,
and when Anthony suggested I do this, I thought there's no possible way. I'm not a techo at all. But it really was quite intuitive, and I was actually quite surprised. The only mistake that I made was attempting to do the video before the voiceover. That's the tip is you make sure you do the voice first, because then you can slide everything in. And also, if you're somebody who doesn't want to do this yourself, there's lots of organisations that will do it for you. We've talked in the past about places like Fiverr. They can help you through these types of things. But to have something like this on your video, on your website, or to be able to send out like Anthony, is certainly worth your while, and it's IP that you can keep and you can use and continue to use. So thanks very much for that.
That's cool.
No worries.
Thanks very much, and thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for those who dialed in. Quite a mind-blowing experience, the LinkedIn. And so I'll be talking to each of you over the next few days to see what we do with Faye and how we engage her going forward. She was really giving of her time. So
that was great value, John.
Yeah,
really.
I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
I think I used LinkedIn okay, but it's always good to see that you're not using it at all properly. So
I did a post yesterday about the Human Synergistics GSI, so please feel free to like and comment.
Yeah. Well, see, I didn't see that, so it's interesting.
No, that's interesting.
So yeah, lots to think about, isn't it? So yeah. Okay, thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And we will talk.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
See you tomorrow, John.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.